In this lecture, we are going to continue learning more about how the software performs its simulation once we give it the required inputs. So first of all, let us consider a simple bar. So this is a bar, and then we have a constraint here, and somewhere here in the middle there is a force P being applied on the bar, and I want to find out the stresses in this particular bar. So now this is what is called as a geometry of this particular problem. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create this geometry of this particular problem, then we are going to give it as an input to the software, right? That is first step. Then in the next step we are going to convert this geometric model into what is known as a finite element model or a measured model, right? So I am trying to convert this into a measured model where I am having two elements and a total of 3 nodes. First node, second node and third node, and this is the first element and this is the second element. Now meshing is also done. Meshing is done and CAD model converted into measured model. The next step is to define the material properties. So how we are going to define the material properties inside the software? Obviously you will be giving Young's modulus value, Poisson's value, as well as shear modulus value, and in addition to all of these values, based on the type of analysis and based on the results you need, you might require to add densities, tensile strengths, and there are other lot of properties which you might need to add based on the type of analysis you want to perform. So once we have all this information, the next thing we need to do is we need to give whatever the geometric dimensions that are missing from this particular FEM model. So for example, if you consider this is an example of a 1D model. So this means in 1D model what is happening, in addition to material properties, we also need to specify what is the area of cross section, right? So I am going to specify area of cross section. Then once we have defined the material properties and defined the area of cross section that is required, the next thing is to provide this particular problem with the sufficient or accurate boundary conditions and loading conditions. Boundary conditions and loading conditions. Generally boundary conditions are usually represented by BCs and loading conditions are represented by LCs. This means it is nothing but constraints. Most of the people are referring to constraints whenever they are referring to boundary conditions in most of the times. Not in all cases, but most of the times. Then once we have provided all the required boundary conditions, loading conditions and all the information, now we have a problem which has all the required input from the user side. Then the role of the software comes into play. Now what the software will do is, first of all it will calculate how many number of elements are there. So first of all, how many number of elements are there here? 1 element, 2 element. So it means it has to create two stiffness matrices. So mathematical representation of an stiffness matrix for an element is nothing but AE by L 1 minus 1 minus 1 1. This is a mathematical formulation for bar element. Remember, this is for bar element. Depending on the type of element, this particular matrix might change, and remember here we are talking about structural analysis. So we have this mathematical formula. Then what does the computer do? It will create two stiffness matrices for two different elements present here. So K1 and K2. And once it creates individual stiffness matrices, it will try to combine both the matrices and create what is known as a single K matrix, which is nothing but a global stiffness matrix. and once it creates the global stiffness matrix, then the software will tend to create what is known as a force matrix. So force matrix is nothing but it represents all the types of forces that are being applied on this particular problem. So for example, let us say, is there any force that is being applied here at the node 1? No. So this is nothing but 0. But at the node 2, so this is the point at which we have taken node 2, so a force of P is being applied. So I will say P. And this is the node 3. Do we have any force? I don't think so we have any force. So obviously it will become 0 again. It will become 0 again. So this is how a force matrix will be built. And remember, this is a very simple example. Then once the force matrix is built, then it will create what is known as a displacement matrix. So at this node 1, let us say we have displacement in one direction, that is u1, and at 2 it is u2, at third node it is u3. So this is how it builds a displacement matrix. If you observe here, we know the values in the matrix of global stiffness matrix. How? See, already we know the length, we already know the area of cross section, we know what material with which this particular object or bar is made up of through Young's modulus value. So already we know all the terms in the global stiffness matrix. Then coming to the force matrix, anyway we know the value of P, and other values are 0, so we know the values in the force matrix. So for structural analysis, the characteristic equation is nothing but force equal to stiffness into displacement. So using this characteristic equation, what it will do is the software will try to find out x can be represented as u, not a problem. So now the software will solve this particular equations using different numerical techniques. Then it will try to find out the displacement matrix, which we represent here as u. Most cases it is also represented as x, f equal to kx. Both notations are fine. Both notations are fine. Then once we get this x matrix or the displacement matrix, then the software, using this characteristic equation, we are going to solve for the matrix, or this is also represented as u. We are going to solve for the matrix of u, right? Once we get this particular results, this results will be at nodes only. We are not going to get at the interior of the elements. We are going to get this displacement values at nodes only. Now what the software will do is, first of all, using the relations between displacement and strain, it will calculate the strain. The software will calculate the strain. Then using the relations between strain and stress, it is going to calculate the stress value. So this is how we are going to get the stress value. And once it calculates all these things, then it will ask the user to give the output requirements. So in which format you want me to output the stress value or strain value and other things. So if I ask for contour plots, they will plot all the results in the form of contour plots. Or if I request any other specific results in different formats, it will be trying to create all those results for me or the user, right? But there is one more thing you need to learn. See here, this is the problem, right? This is a problem, and I have a fixed condition and I have a force P, right? This is fine. But now we got the displacement values at nodes only. Let us suppose I want to find out the displacement value, or let us say stress value at somewhere at this point, let us say P1, right? I want to find at point P1. Now what the software does is, as I already told you, there are something called as a shape functions for each and every element that is defined. So what it will do is, the software will use this shape functions to create a value at the point P1. So what it will do is, simply it will create an interpolation. See, to simply state that, let us say this is node 1 and this is node 2, and we know the values at node 1 and we know the values at the node 2. Now using mathematical interpolation, what the software does is it is going to calculate the value at the P1, and for calculating P1, these are the functions that are going to help the software calculate the required values at required intermediary points. So this is how the software is going to approach when it is trying to solve different problems using finite element method.